This podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/TSE. Audible has over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Again, simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. One of such books I would recommend on Audible is 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. This book is written by our guest today, Kevin Kruse. You can check it out. Just simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Take advantage of the free book. I just downloaded it and I'm excited to go through it. I had an opportunity to connect with Kevin to do the interview. It's a phenomenal book, but check it out again. Go to audibletrial.com/TSE. 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. Man, I can't take this anymore, man. There's so much to do. Proposals, paperwork, prospecting. I need to figure out a better way to control my time. Kevin, can you help me? Can you help me, brother? Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great day. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And we have a phenomenal guest coming on the show. His name is Kevin Kruse, and Kevin actually is an author of a book, as I mentioned there in the very, very opening teaser. The book was titled 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. And Kevin did a phenomenal job writing the book. He interviewed a lot of folks. He interviewed 7 billionaires, 13 Olympic athletes, 29 straight A students, and 239 entrepreneurs. So they gave a lot of great insights, and you're going to love what he shares. You're going to love this episode as well. If you have Audible, go ahead and download it. It's definitely going to be worth it for you. If you don't have Audible, you're thinking about getting Audible, just go ahead and get the book for free and try Audible for 30 days. You can use our offer code. So go to audibletrial.com/TSE, audibletrial.com/TSE. You can search for the book there. But today, before we dive into the fun stuff, I got to give some shout outs, right? I want to give a big shout out this week to Stacy. Stacy, thank you so much for connecting with me. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you continue to find great success as you're out there in the sales world, as you are hustling and bustling. Also want to give a big shout out to Larry Kim. Thank you so much for connecting, Larry. Want to give a big shout out as well to Crystal. And also I want to give a big shout out to Alexander. Thank you so much for connecting with me. If you'd like to connect with me, you can go ahead and find me easily on Twitter, Donald T. Kelly, like these fine folks. You can find me on LinkedIn, Donald T. Kelly. You can also find me on Instagram, Donald T. Kelly. Or you can go ahead and like our Facebook page, The Sales Evangelist, or join our private Facebook group. It's the Sales Evangelizers. That's where entrepreneurs, sales professionals like you and me get together, share thoughts and insights. And this is a community that we started a while back, and it's just a way for us to connect as other sellers. And also, you can connect with other listeners of the podcast. Maybe you find some folks you can build up alliance with. And if you want to take your sales to another level this year, you want to get some training, but maybe you don't have the company training budget, or you want to do something on a small level, join our mastermind. Each week we have a dynamic training session led by me or by a sales expert that we bring on, and you're going to love it. This month we're focusing all on prospecting. Would love to share some thoughts and insights with you. So simply go to thesalesevangelist.com/hustlers to learn more, thesalesevangelist.com/hustlers. Now, Kevin got some great insights. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Take it away, DJ. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hey, Donald. Glad to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on a podcast. I'm excited for this episode because this is something I feel that a lot of people could get a great benefit from. The episodes are awesome, but you're Kevin, for goodness sake. You're going to bring tons of value to us today.
I'm going to try.
But Kevin, before we dive into all the fun stuff, why don't you tell us about your coolest sales experience when you were the customer?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really respect great salespeople and great sales talent. And, one that sticks out happened just recently when I got a knock on my door, and it turns out it was a guy selling tree manicure services. He's a tree doctor. And I almost never answer my door when I don't know who it is. And whenever it's someone trying to sell me something, I know the tricks to not get into the conversation, not take their literature, any of that kind of stuff. Well, 5 minutes later, this guy sold me hundreds of dollars of tree services and was climbing up my trees, hacking them down. And, looking back at it, he did all the great things. When I opened up the door, he was friendly and his body language was kind of tilted away. Like he himself only had a second, so it was going to be really, really quick. And then he name dropped for credibility and authority. He mentioned all my neighbors by name and told me that he was working on their trees. And then he went into this educational thing about how he spotted a couple diseased things in one branch. If it goes down in the storm, it's going to hit my roof. And he just went right through it. And 5 minutes later, he had me asking how much, which of course is a buying question, right? And even that, he said, well, I'm sure you see, and he named some competitor. He's like, I'm sure you see his truck around here all the time. He's $500 a tree, but since I'm doing your neighbors, I'll do it for $300 a tree or something like that. I'm like, okay, sure. I have no idea, if that was a good value or not. But the way he framed it by offering that expensive alternative first, I mean, the guy was masterful, and he was just a tree doctor.
Dude, that is awesome. We have to get him on a podcast. I hope you have a business card.
That's right. That's right.
Well, cool, man. Well, tell us a little bit more about what you do, Kevin.
Yeah, Donald, I mean, these days I call myself a reformed serial entrepreneur because for 20 years, I started a few different tech companies, and a couple didn't do well, but a few of them, had real nice exits. And so for the last 6 years or so, I turned to my second passion, which is writing and speaking about different productivity tips and business tips and leadership advice. So that's where I've been focusing my time, is really more as an author speaker in my second career here.
Well, Kevin, you do a lot of writing, as you shared, and you've got the opportunity to interview a lot of interesting sales experts, some wonderful entrepreneurs, and people who are doing fantastic things. One of those that you interviewed in this this particular episode I want to learn a little bit more about was Mark Cuban. And you told me that Mark Cuban had an advice that he gave. Would you be willing to share that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, Don, because, the latest book is all about time management productivity. And so I reached out to over 200 billionaires, self-made millionaires, successful entrepreneurs, even Olympic athletes. And, I got a hold of 7 billionaires. Mark Cuban was one of them. And all of the billionaires sort of gave similar advice around like the evil of meetings, how meetings can waste our time. And, Mark Cuban specifically, I mean, he, in his typical, kind of witty, funny style, he basically, I said, what's your number one piece of advice? He says, never do meetings unless someone's writing you a check. And, I imagine that he's not talking about like one-on-one conversations with people in his own company and all that. I think he means most meetings as traditionally defined, where a bunch of us all gather around that conference room table or we all go out to lunch. I mean, it's just not an efficient way to communicate information or to make a decision or anything else. And several other, people gave me that advice as well. Dustin Moskovitz, he was another one of the billionaires, co-founder of Facebook. It became such a problem at Facebook. He says they have no meeting Wednesdays, where, look, the other 4 days a week you can have meetings, but one day a week it's about making stuff. It's about getting your most important task done. It's about thinking strategically and creatively and getting in the zone. And that's just something, advice I heard over and over again.
That's interesting too, man. There are so many times, like, I think people feel if I have a meeting that I'm being really productive. Like I have 3 meetings on my calendar today, so I'm important and I have to be at all of them. And it's usually those meetings could have been done in like 5 minutes or through an email, right?
Yeah, that's right. And again, it depends what you want to optimize for, because, this book's all about extreme productivity. And so it's really easy to see that, I mean, meetings are worse than phone calls are worse than emails are worse than text messages. That you get in a meeting and all of a sudden it's like breaking the ice or chit-chatting over a meal or a cup of coffee before getting down to business. Now, if you're trying to build a relationship or you just want to have an easy afternoon, that's the different story. But in terms of productivity, meetings are killers.
One of the things that you're big on is the to-do list, or should I say, why we need to stop doing a to-do list. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, I'm getting more questions and hate mail on this than any other thing. It turns out, out of, like I said, over 200, almost 300 people I interviewed, almost nobody is using a to-do list. And, that really struck me as an interesting thing. And as I dug into it a little bit, I found a research study that was done in 2014 that showed that 41% of to-do list items are never completed, and 50% of the stuff that we are doing on our to-do list, we put it on the list that very same day. So In other words, to-do lists are sort of like the graveyard for all the important but not urgent things. We stick it on the list and then just never get to it. And so what these ultra-productive people are using instead of to-do lists is basically their calendar. And that sounds so simple, but they're really taking it to an extreme level. A lot of people, they only use their calendar for phone calls or appointments or official meetings. Well, this is the idea of actually making a meeting with yourself and time blocking everything. So once you truly understand what you value or what's most important to you, whether it's in your personal life or in your job or career, you need to time block that. If you really believe health is an important thing, well, then you're going to time block an hour to go to the gym, 3 days a week. If you truly value your marriage, well, you're going to set aside at least one night a week for date night, and that's going to be on your calendar, and you're not going to stay in the office late because you're going to value that appointment. And the real killers out there, they are time blocking in 15-minute chunks. Guys like Chris Ducker, Dave Kerpen, a lot of these entrepreneurs I talk to, they basically said everything gets put on the to-do list. So, if they want to check their email, they will schedule email processing time in a 15 or 30-minute chunk of time. Or maybe they'll do one chunk of email in the morning and another at night. But everything is scheduled. Phone calls, emails, marketing, whatever it is that they're doing, their entire calendar is mapped out ahead of time.
That's very interesting. I think the 15-minute block too, it provides, and you can let me know if this would be accurate or not. And my sense is that it would make you a little bit more efficient with your emailing. Because if I know that I have these two 15-minute blocks to do emailing, then I'm going to get as much done as opposed to I get up in the morning and I spend like an hour and a half, responding to email. What are your thoughts on that?
You hit it right on the head. In fact, my own system, I call it 3210 email. And so for me, I like to do a check-in on email, a process really, 3 times a day. So early in the morning to deal with whatever came in overnight, sort of the middle of the day, it's often early afternoon, and then one more time at the late afternoon or early evening so I can kind of free my mind and not worry about it for the rest of the evening. So there's the 3 chunks. That's part of the 3-2-1. The 2-1 is 21 minutes. I'll literally set the clock. It's kind of like a Pomodoro technique, where, boom, it's 20 to 25 minutes of email time, and it almost makes a game out of it. Instead of Donald sent me this interesting email, and it's got a link to an article, and I click the link, and now I'm reading that article, and then that's got a link. Next thing I know, an hour's gone by, and I'm reading all this internet stuff. When that clock's ticking away, it's like, okay, I'm reading the email, and I'm not going to click the link, or if I want to check it out, I will schedule it, put it on my calendar for sometime tomorrow. But I've only got these 21 minutes to process email. And, of course, once you're processing your email, your goal should always be to get to inbox 0 as much as you can. And to process it quickly, you just go down that list, and it's like the 4 Ds. Can I delete this email? Yes, kill it. If not, can I delegate it, which means can I forward this to somebody? If I can't delete it or delegate it, can I do it quickly, like less than 5 minutes? If yes, boom, I'm going to take care of it right now. If no, then I'm going to defer the email, which means schedule time. And, you can just click up, you can drag it using Outlook right to your calendar, or in Google, in Gmail, you can choose a menu option to turn it into a calendar event. And that's all I do. It's the 4 Ds, and I'm just, anything I can't take care of quickly, I'm scheduling time to get back to it on my calendar. Next thing you know, 21 minutes is down, and I'm back to inbox 0 again.
I love that, man. I feel that so many times as a sales rep, especially when I was doing some of the software sales, I would find myself like in the morning, just like overpowered with email when I could have easily just schedule it a little bit more efficiently and to see a little bit more success. So it makes total sense, man. And I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I find. Again, it goes back to the idea, if I'm doing email, I'm productive, which is not necessarily the best thing to be doing.
And Donald, I think what you just said is so important because, people don't want to hear this, but so much of this is really about your mindset. It's like our beliefs are going to drive our behaviors. And we got to take ownership that, okay, we complain about, spending all this time on email, and I'm buried in email, and I wish I could do that other thing, but all my email. a lot of times we use email as sort of a distraction mechanism or a procrastination mechanism.
Yep.
Instead of writing this proposal or banging out my 50 cold calls, let me open up Outlook and see if I got any emails in the last 10 minutes since the last time I checked it, right? So we don't need to do that. And once we realize, like, okay, we're using email as a crutch, then we just need to treat it like any other task, job-related task we need to do. How much time do we need to allocate it, do it, and then get out and not use it as this procrastination tool.
Kevin, what was the most surprising thing you found out from this research?
Yeah, there was a lot of things. I mean, I think that what did surprise me, like the book's about 15 secrets that I saw that most people were doing, but not everybody does the same thing. The one commonality that just kind of came through every interview, every person I encountered, was just this feeling of that time really is our most valuable asset. I mean, money, I know a ton of people that have lost fortunes and then made it back again. We can even lose our health and get it back again. We can lose friendships and get new friends. But time, I mean, we get 1,440 minutes a day. That's the power of 1440. And these ultra-productive people, I mean, they're thinking in minutes, not hours, and certainly not days. And I think that's what just really, I wasn't looking for it, but just came screaming out that you almost could hear it. People would, again, talk about, I changed the default in my calendar from the 30-minute event down to a 15-minute event. Or people would schedule phone calls with me, and they, instead of it being like at 2 o'clock, they would pick 2:03, because they're literally mapping the minutes. I mean, this is about extreme productivity. So, I mean, that was really just, I was looking for tips or hacks or whatever, but the real commonality is that these people are just in tune with how valuable time is. And once you get that mindset in place, you don't waste your time. It's easier to say no to distracting opportunities because you realize, time is life. Why would you give it away?
I love what you just said about the being willing to say no to things, because from the sales side, coaching salespeople and working with them, training, it's like everyone and their mom, they think it's a business lead for them. When if you think time being that precious, that important, then I can't do business with you. It's going to gain me $5. I need something that's going to gain me $5,000. So, don't waste your time on things that doesn't matter when you can have focus on those things that are the most important.
Now, back when I was selling software, like custom software services, this is going back 15, 20 years ago, but I was young and dumb and I didn't understand that. And so I would spend, there were literally times where I would spend days of time prospecting, working an account, proposal, close the deal for $10,000. And then there would be times where I'd close a $100,000 deal in 8 hours of time. And it took me a long time to realize, like, you know what? You can close $1 million deal in almost the same time as a $10,000 deal, and sometimes faster because you're working at a higher level. And so salespeople especially, it pays to work smart, not just hard. I respect the hustle, but dumb hustle doesn't make sense. You might as well hustle smart.
Can we quote that one?
Sure.
There's one of the things that I did too, because I sold to governments, and the government, they're going to take, it doesn't matter if you're going to buy something, if they want it, your product costs $5,000 or $50,000, it's still going to be the same thing. They're going to put it in the budget and they're going to wait the 8 months before they get that money in the budget. So same thing you're saying, man, you focus on those things that matter the most. One of the other questions I have, Kevin, tying back to this, because again, I started really hyper focusing on my calendar. I'm already picky about it, but you just shattered my to-do list, so I'm not going to do that anymore. But what's unique about the productivity habits of billionaires, Olympians, students, and entrepreneurs? You mentioned that in the book.
Yeah, those are the 4 groups that I went after. And the commonalities are sort of the 15 things, but then each group kind of had their own. And, I mentioned like the billionaires really seem to be focusing on minimizing the meeting time. What I thought was interesting was the Olympic athletes. This isn't quite true, but it seems like they're the laziest group of all, because they kept talking about taking naps, relaxing, goofing off, and all that. And of course, they don't call it resting, they call it recovery. So they made a point which is valuable to all of us, taking that time to sharpen the saw. And they said, look, even when we're focused, 6 months into the Olympics, we look at, again, every minute, what can I do in the next minute or 15 minutes that's going to get me closer to that gold medal? And they said very often it's do nothing or relax or take a nap. they really are going all out when they're in the zone and they're doing their workouts or they're doing their training, but they also know that they can't let themselves burn out or overextend. And, when after workout and you rest, that's when your muscles build. And it's same mentally. We go all out for, generally 30 minutes to 90 minutes. Our brain starts to fizzle a little bit and we need to take a little recovery period. And so, that was really interesting from the Olympians. And then, this is you'd probably expect. The students I spoke to, so this is a younger group, high school students and college students, their big thing for their time success is managing social media distractions. So, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. And a lot of them, they have all these little, first of all, they were aware of it, that, look, I need to study and be in the zone. I can't be checking social media every other minute. So then they had different strategies, and some of them use apps or software that will literally, it's a blocker, like it'll be a block to Instagram or to Facebook for an hour or something like that. Others would do, they would physically put their phone into a separate room than the one they were doing homework in. So it wasn't just in sight and tempting them to pick it up. And that's, again, this kind of advice, I did get that from a lot of entrepreneurs. They're like, listen, block out these jam sessions, whether it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, figure out what your most important task is, and then go in the zone. Shut your telephone off, close email, mute your landline phone, put a do not disturb sign on your office or whatever you need to do to make sure that you're just going to go right down into the zone. And ideally, we should be working distraction-free at all times. It's not always practical. It's tough to do. But taking advice from these straight A students, let's really understand when are our working jam sessions going to be. Let's calendar it and let's shut off all these distractions.
Man, dude, I wish we could go back in time about, good 15 years and I could apply that back when I was in high school.
Would have helped, huh?
Oh man, I would have been killing it. Probably would be at Harvard when I was 18. Here's one, I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but this is one of the things, I want to make sure that listeners who go and check out the book can really grasp. There's 15 secrets, and sometimes it may be a lot to remember. How can we remember and apply these productivity habits?
Yeah, that's right. I can't. I wrote the book and I can't remember 15 things. So I condensed them even more into these 4 categories. So the formula is E3C. So the E stands for energy, and then the 3 C's is capture, calendar, and concentrate. So going with the E3C, we can't really manage time, but we can manage our attention and our energy, our focus. And so that just starts with those fundamentals of, making sure, like the Olympians said, make sure you're getting enough sleep and you're not skipping meals and you're drinking plenty of water and all those good things. The 3 C's, it's capture everything into a notebook. Don't try to remember things. Write it all down. And then calendar, as I said, if you have a task to do, don't put it on your to-do list. Do put it on your calendar. That's going to help you to be much more realistic about getting things done and saying no to things that you just don't have time for. And the third and final C is concentrate, which is in a way that you're totally focused and can concentrate. So, there's great things in the 15 secrets, but that formula, E3C, really captures it. Maximize your energy, capture everything so you don't forget it in a notebook, work from your calendar, and concentrate during your working jam sessions.
You talked about a Harvard case study, or a Harvard experiment, and it saved people 8 hours each week. Do you mind telling us that before we wrap up?
Yeah, Don, when I first heard this, I wouldn't have believed this myself. It's such an outrageous claim, but it was, covered in Harvard Business Review, where they did this study where these trainers, these productivity trainers, went into companies and taught all the employees to look at their calendar every week and to ask 3 questions as they went through all the things on their calendar. First, it was basically drop, delegate, or redesign. Drop it. How valuable is this task? What would happen if I just dropped it? If you can't drop it, then you go to delegate. Am I the only person who can do this task? Who else could maybe do it? And if you can't delegate it, redesign, they had them ask, how can the same outcome be achieved in less time? What would I do with this if I only had half the time? And just by asking those questions, can I just stop doing it? Can I give it to someone else? Or can I redesign the process? people were able to save, on average, 6 hours of desk work and 2 hours of meeting time every single week.
Wow. Man, that is powerful stuff to do, man. That would be awesome. Imagine every company implementing that.
Yep, taking the time to just pause and be thoughtful before diving into our routine. And maybe we don't have to do it all by ourselves after all.
No, it's so true with that help. When I started a podcast, Kevin, and I started doing everything by myself because I was doing my software sales job, then eventually broke off and so forth, and where I'm full time. And that was one of the biggest awakenings that I had was I had so much to do. And it was to make sure that I got help and to redefine things and not to do it ineffective. So, I resonate so much with that, man. I need a perfection, man. I need to study that book like more. So I need to block off like 10 hours off my calendar. I need to get 10 hours gone. That's the plan. Eliminate 10 hours a week.
That's right.
Kevin, I love this, man. And if folks out there are loving it too, they want to get connected to your book or get connected to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, thanks, Donald. It's been a pleasure. The book's available everywhere. Easiest is to go on to Amazon and just search for 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. I'm on all the social media channels, and my email is kevin@kevincruz.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure we link back to that in our show notes so folks can connect with you. Thanks so much, Kevin. I really appreciate the time today, man.
Thanks, Donald.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Kevin gave us some great ideas, some great thoughts there. And if you'd like to connect with Kevin, you want to connect back with us, you can simply go to thesalesevangelist.com/episode 266. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode, then the numbers 266 for episode 266. Man, we're cooking with fire. Podcast episodes are going out like crazy. Well, we produce these episodes, we get these guests, we find these people who are of value because we want to help you to gain a lot of value. We want you to help you to be successful. And if you're finding value from the podcast, I would beg you to please leave a rating and review in iTunes or whatever tool you use to download a podcast. If you're on Stitcher, leave a rating and review there. If you're on Podplay or any of those other means, simply leave a review there. Most people I know are listening to it on iTunes, but leave a ratings and review. It helps others to find the podcast and help others to see that this podcast is of benefit. Please, thank you so much. I'd love that. But all in all, we do these things because we want you to be successful. We want you to be happy. Most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things.